If you clicked on this video because your neurons were forced awake from the masterclass of a thumbnail I concocted, then congratulations, theater-going witch. That is one thing you have in common with The Emperor. Yes, I, The Emperor, specifically bought this video game because the protagonist has a giant butt. Butts are good. Butts are great. There is nothing greater on the body than your ass. But can this marvelous behind carry an entire premium video game? Let's talk about it. Metro Gravity is an independent 3D rhythm platformer puzzler Metroidvania developed by Marko Popovic, or otherwise known as Marko Game Dev, released on PC via Steam on June 20th, 2025. That's a lot of genres, huh? And that opening paragraph wasn't a joke either. The entire reason why I bought this video game is because my YouTube homepage randomly showed me the launch trailer and all I saw was butt. If it weren't for the laws of this land, I would be playing Billy Gunn's WWF theme as background noise right now. Man, screw it, I'll sing it myself. I'm an ass man. You play as a very chill, down-to-earth lass named Stephanie. She wakes up in a mysterious land where physics defies human common sense. As you traverse the area, which is named The Halls by its inhabitants, you meet said inhabitants, which are the friendly NPCs in this case. As you interact with them and the bosses in the game, you slowly piece together what's going on, all the while trying to find a way out of the halls yourself. As with most games I review on this channel, the story is vague and open-ended, but Metro Gravity is probably the least offending in that regard. The narrative is very straightforward. However, some info is purposely left unsaid to give that open-endedness to it. If you've experienced more than 5 pieces of literature, then you've seen this sort of story before. To give an example, the story in Metro Gravity heavily reminds me of Black Rock Shooter, the anime obviously. The characters, both friendly and bosses, are extremely diverse, each with their own unique look, personality, and sense of humor, while Stephanie herself does a satisfactory job of piloting the train, pun intended. I personally like the story and the dialogue in the game, but what about the gameplay, the thing that matters most? And boy oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. This game is as frustrating as it is unique. As said earlier, this game has a lot of genres rolled into one, but essentially, to make things as simple as possible, it is a 3D Metroidvania where the main focus is puzzle solving, specifically physics-focused puzzles. The Emperor is the fakest puzzle enjoyer in existence. See, I primarily do not play strictly 100% pure puzzle games. I usually play games with puzzle solving elements, where they are there, but they aren't the main focus. In Metro Gravity, the puzzles are the main focus and the thing you'll be doing the most. So if you don't like using your brain, just X out of this tab right now. Do yourself a favor. The puzzles in this game are a thing. It's one of those things where by itself it isn't an issue, but other things causes the issue. One of which that should be obvious from the gameplay footage shown so far. The puzzles in Metro Gravity are by no definition hard. The gist goes that you receive a new gadget or upgrade or ability, and then the preceding level will have you solve 3 or so puzzles primarily using said upgrade, while hidden or secret puzzles and further along in the game require you to use 2 abilities at once. Change gravity in one spot, bind or tether objects together, turn stationary objects, and so on and so forth. It's very straightforward on the surface, but here's where some of the frustration and confusion comes from. First, you must fully understand how to use your abilities. You'll get a single, small paragraph to explain, which doesn't help because the preceding puzzles will then immediately challenge your mastery of said ability. Then, you need timing. A lot of puzzles require you to do actions in a timed manner. You can't just press switches A, D, and E and puzzle solved. Nah, instead, you'll have to do actions timed correctly, like using inertia to make a block move slowly, then make a mad dash as the block's movement disables lasers in order for you to pass. So, you not only have to find a solution, but then execute said solution at correct intervals. The biggest elephant in the room will get its own section later. Getting a block or object to a button or pad, reflecting light off of surfaces, and perspective challenges via powering both ends of a battery with no breaks in the electricity path. I'm probably not the best equipped to speak on high technicalities of a puzzle since I'm a fake puzzle fan, but I think what's given have a healthy diversity to it so it doesn't feel like you're doing the same one thing over and over again. This game is also a rhythm game, if you remember. And no, not the timing required for certain puzzles either. Metro Gravity has combat, and that combat is rhythm based. Which, in a sense, I guess isn't saying much because parry-centric combat is rhythm based to begin with, but all enemies attack to the beat of whatever song is playing, and all parry timings are also to the beat of whatever song is playing. However, you, the player, aka Stephanie, are not bound to the beat when attacking. You can attack whenever and how frequently you want. Accessibility and difficulty is freely customizable here. You can enable and disable a metronome and circular timing visualizer, and increase the parry window. The metronome appears whenever engaged in combat and it shows the tempo of the current song, while the circular timing visualer is self-explanatory. It tells you when to parry basically. Naturally, taking these off will make combat harder. But here's one of the coolest things that Metro Gravity does. Despite if you have the aforementioned enabled or not, everything about the game is passively rhythm based. Stephanie's steps, both walking and running, will always be to the beat of the song. When leaving Stephanie idle, her idle animation is also in tune to the beat. Her foot tapping is in sync with every beat, and her head nodding to every other beat. The attention to detail here is amazing. Bosses exist in this game, as briefly mentioned earlier, and naturally, they too are rhythm bound. This is my favorite part of the game honestly, and a part of me wishes it was a rhythm based boss rush in its entirety instead. They're incredibly varied with their own unique songs. They have phases and incorporate your abilities as well. It's a lot of fun to play. Graphics and art style is a required taste. You either like low poly or you don't. I love low poly things, so this was a no-brainer to me. Each of the different areas have so much variety to it, and Marco Game Dev did a fantastic job of creating that magical atmosphere with the halls. Floating objects, bright, saturated colors, twisting corridors, reflective marble floors. The levels are gorgeous to look at, and the bold usage of colors makes things stand out. The character designs are really fun too. The bosses and NPCs all have looks that solely belong to them. The Emperor even has a bit of representation in this since one of the friendly NPCs is West Indian. You can't be a good rhythm game without having good songs. So, I am very happy to report that the tracks in Metro Gravity are fire. Quite a bit of areas are accompanied by music I hummed along to. But I've seen some complaints in passing, saying the music doesn't match the combat. This makes zero sense to me, because just because there's combat in the game doesn't mean it needs to be some high octane metal like Doom 2016 for example. This game is also not a character action game. The music is not intended to get your blood pumping. The combat is a side dish, not the main focus of the game. I really like the touch of the NPC's text advanced sounds not only being different per NPC, but based off of music genres as well. One achievement tasks you with beating the game in 5 hours or less, and another one in 1 hour and 30 minutes or less. There are only 5 bosses in the game, so obviously this game is short, as it should be. However, the Emperor took 21 hours to beat this from how badly I was lost, confused, and stuck. It took me until the last third of the game to finally understand, and I mean truly understand, the game's mechanics. Unfortunately though, despite how nice Stephanie looks, despite how funny and charming I think the dialogue and humor is, despite how pretty the graphics are, Metro Gravity has its problems, More specifically, it has one big problem and little tiny ones that orbit it. And no, we are not talking about Stephanie's ass. This camera is one of the single worst things I have ever had the displeasure of experiencing. I come from an era where bad cameras were the norm for 3D games, especially if they were developed by our friends over in Japanland. But this shit here is exceptionally bad. Stephanie has a passive ability that allows her to walk on any surface, hence the whole gravity thing. You walk up to a surface and Stephanie will start to walk up it. The problem is, every single time you do this, the camera swings itself to position to a very specific spot behind Stephanie. And the swings are wild. It seems we've learned absolutely nothing from the N64 and Dreamcast days. Luckily, the camera doesn't fight against you. You can freely move it around at any point. There's never an instance where the game takes away the ability to move the camera around freely. Additionally, it never hard forces itself to a position, meaning it'll never force itself or reset itself to one spot despite you moving it. The game's magical nature plays against itself here. All surfaces aren't completely flat or even. There are whole mini planets you walk around, Super Mario Galaxy style. The second Stephanie walks on a new surface, the camera will move itself. It's disorientating, and that disorientation causes the confusion for most players, myself included. It also can cause motion sickness. You can lock gravity to be normal with your relative position with the push of a button. But again, the game's magical, unorthodox, otherworldly nature plays against itself. You gotta move around, so constantly pressing the C button to lock and unlock gravity is not fun to do. What's up? What's down? Left and right? Whoops, I'm up Stephanie's ass again. This causes you to lose direction quickly. And remember those puzzles? The whole point of the game? Yeah, you gotta tussle with the camera on top of those too. You'll never be able to see the entire area of a puzzle room. The game also kinda zooms in when using an ability. So now, as a recap, you have to figure out the puzzle solution, execute the puzzle solution with correct timing, and constantly adjust the camera to see what you're even doing in the first place. This is the single biggest issue in the game. At worst, it can cause sickness, and at best, it'll cause you to be lost. This is not good in any way, shape, form, or capacity. The only time this camera works is for the few rotating or twisting hallways. Everywhere else, it works against you. The game desperately needed the ability to freely zoom the camera in and out, with an addition to a first person and or isometric view so you can take the time to look at all your surroundings. There are times where I didn't touch the mouse while moving and I just watched the camera beat its own ass by swinging wildly and colliding with the geometry. This Metroidvania has a map, thank God. It doesn't show puzzle rooms though, which is a bad thing. It does allow for multiple custom markers so you can manually map puzzle rooms, which is a good thing. It shows your position too, which is a good thing. It doesn't show which direction you are facing, which is a bad thing. It actually does something very obnoxious by having Stephanie's icon rotate with the camera, so it's always directly facing the camera. Dumb. I spoke about the bosses being my favorite aspect of the game. However, they too have a flaw. I mentioned that they have phases, but for whatever reason, the indicator for these phase changes are entirely visual based, which makes their pattern changes seem completely random if you don't know what's going on. And high chance the first time you see the visual icon, you'll have no idea what it means, so you won't know what's going on. A green spiral icon will show up, and that's your indicator that the boss will change its attack pattern. Completely silent, entirely visual. Is this not a rhythm game? Why not make a musical cue be the indicator instead? This also applies to the visual indicator of when you have to jump or dash out of the way and you can't parry, but that's whatever. In the game Nine Souls, which is also a Metroidvania with sound-based combat, all of the enemy cues come from sounds. There was one enemy type that I was able to perfectly parry upon first encounter because I heard the cue. Why didn't Metro Gravity go this route? Having me focus entirely on parrying to the beat just to force a portion of my attention to a silent visual cue kinda defeats the purpose, no? The last noticeable flaw before we enter nitpick mode is the fact that the first ability you get is the hardest and most complex ability you own, with the game doing a terrible job explaining how to use it. Place a gravity field projected outwards from a smooth surface, 1 key or 2 key weapon wheel. What does that mean, bro? It's even more funny because the demo video shows what you have to use the gravity amulet on, but I'm focused on quickly trying to understand what I just read. Do I press the 1 key or 2 key to use it? Do I need to press another button to place the beacon down? What am I doing? If you've ever played The Sims or any game with a building mechanic, it's like that. You can freely place the gravity field anywhere, as long as it meets the right conditions, which the game does tell you. Gravity will be forced downward in that direction, so it is very important where you place it. If you want an object to be moved to the wall to your left, you have to place it on that wall and make sure the gravity field's area of effect is touching the object you want. The field only changes gravity in one direction, downward towards the surface you placed it on. Place a gravity field projected outwards from a smooth surface hardly tells you any of that, so your boy got stuck within the first 20 minutes of gameplay. Funnily enough, I had the luxury of confirmation bias, seeing other people run into the same exact problem on the game's discussion forum on Steam. All my other negatives are small, like the fact that there is fast travel, but the fast travel is different from the save points, or whatever. Metro Gravity is an ambitious game, and with ambition comes challenges, and those challenges can cause issues. This game is rough around the edges. There's plenty of good things here, however. It leans into the Metroidvania aspect by rewarding you with extras for exploring and backtracking, lore into the NPCs, more health, tougher puzzles, new outfits, etc. The friendly NPCs come off as normal people by the way that they talk. The humor is charming, with Stephanie saying, "Don't know where I'm at," when opening the map for an area you didn't find the map for. But the camera is abysmal, and the largest detriment to the game. You have to truly understand your abilities to solve puzzles, but the game does a poor job of explaining that to you. I'm the type of person who does not like to be stuck every 5 steps. If that occurs, it makes me not want to play the game anymore. There are plenty of times where I was downright frustrated. However, I still think this is how video games should be. Why, you might ask? Because it's a complete package. Everything is earned in-game. There's a complete story from beginning to end, and going the extra mile is rewarding. 100%ing the game isn't just doing a bunch of menial tasks. It's instead fully mastering the game inside and out. And I'll always praise ambition, daring to be different no matter how technically difficult it is to achieve. I do firmly stand on the notion that the game is trying too much though, cramming too many genres into one. Be combat focused or puzzle focused with one side genre, not puzzle combat rhythm platform Metroidvania. It's a lot to juggle. By removing 2 genres, I think the game would come off as a bit more focused. The Emperor sort of recommends this game. Obviously, if the camera makes you physically sick, then do not play. If you don't like puzzle solving, then do not play. If you are a fan of low polygons, Metroidvanias, and or 3D platformers, I'd say give this one a go. It has a free demo too, so you have absolutely nothing to lose. But that's kind of a cop-out answer. To give you a hard yes or no, to go by Steam's logic, would I recommend it or would I not recommend it with no in between? My answer would be thumbs up. I would recommend this game. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's hard around the edges, rough around the edges, whatever. However, the game has mechanics and it takes time to learn. Once you do learn and fully understand what you just learned, you will realize that this game is not as hard as it initially comes off to be. It takes time, but that time is rewarded. I still do think that this is a very good video game. Very good might be too strong of a word, but regardless, I still do think this is a good game. Despite my complaints, I do not regret spending real human dollars on this game. Despite this review may or may not coming off as too negative, I do not regret spending real human dollars on this game. I am happy, in fact, that I bought this game. It was enjoyable to follow a chill protagonist like Stephanie. Also, every protagonist should have a fat ass. Society would be better that way. Thanks for watching, everybody.